Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our second episode of Milligenics. First, before we move forward, I want to say thank you to all our supporters for making our very first episode possible. A little bit of something about myself. My name is Sensei. I have over 10 years working in different managerial roles, as well as over 10 years working as a career coach. I believe having those over 2 decades of working with humans and just, I guess, humanities all in general has given me the tips, or better yet, the expertise to help people recognize some triggers and help them move on to their better selves. Um, and now I'm going to pass it over to my very good friend, Master Roshi.
Thank you, Master Sensei. So, just to give you a background again on myself, I've worked almost 10 years plus in different types of companies, ranging from nonprofit to corporate, Fortune 500 companies, finance, hedge funds, and that sort. So, that's sort of my background. It's pretty diverse. And now I'm working for a firm here in Atlanta, Georgia. And I'll take it back to you, Master Sensei.
All right, so Master Roshi, so we thought it would be a great idea to get into to continue our discussion and survive the pandemic. We discussed some tips that can help you re-energize yourself and get through this pandemic, and also not just get through the pandemic, but beyond that. Um, After the pandemic is over, it's going to be just you once again. So you can use those tips to help you propel yourself forward. But in addition to that, what we thought it would be a good idea is to cover resume building and interview tips. We're going to focus a little bit more about resume building, and we're going to leave interview tips for our next episode. But considering the amount of folks that have lost their jobs during this difficult time, um, Master Roshi and I thought it would be a good idea to talk about rebuilding yourself during the pandemic and how to find work. Right before we quarantined back in March, people were going to school, people were preparing themselves for a bright future. And that bright future can still happen. However, because we were in quarantine, a lot of folks decided to just give up. And what we need to do is continue pushing ourselves forward. So, how can we do this during the pandemic? Maybe by helping you find work. Okay. What is the number one, marketing material that you have that you own right now to promote your business? Basically, that is called a resume. A resume is what we use here in the U.S. as a snapshot of your background, of your expertise, and what you can bring to the table to propel yourself forward in your particular career. Now, where I mentioned earlier that some of you were going to school and some of you were preparing yourself to a brighter future, meaning that perhaps you gained your degree, perhaps you earned some recognizable industry certifications. And after the pandemic, you thought, man, who's going to hire me? And we're here to help you find some basic tips that can help you back into the workplace. All right. Now, one thing that I can perhaps, maybe I shouldn't be saying this, but one thing right now is that we cannot be too picky. Yes, you may want to be an accountant director, and that's what you wanted to do when um, you attended school. However, all right, that may not be the first job that you get. It might just be uh, somebody just counting numbers to help the accountant. Okay, whatever it is, well, you need to get your foot in the door grow new skill sets while utilizing the skill sets that you learned in school to propel yourself forward into the position that you want to achieve. So one of the things that what we need to do is analyze the job description and how by analyzing the job description you can make that fit into your particular background. So many folks, let's say, um, like let's say for you, Master Roshi, you mentioned that I remember having conversations with you, and you mentioned that you worked in a McDonald's setting, sometime when back in your early days, and working in McDonald's. Now you're a professional working in an office setting. You're a homeowner, but you started working at McDonald's, and working at McDonald's, people might think that it doesn't have you know it's not something that I would be proud of putting into my resume. I didn't gain much skills besides flipping burgers and shaking fries, and I'm here to tell you that you did utilize and gained a whole wealth of skills that can help you propel yourself in the career in your chosen career. Let's just go with accounting. All right, for now, for lack of better words, but this can go into accounting. It can go into IT. It can go into human resources. It can go almost into any industry. And let's just say that a as a as a crew member for McDonald's, uh, I don't know, you shook fries. And you might think, well, shaking fries, what's that has to do with accounting? Well, perhaps what has to do with it is the fact that you worked in a diverse environment, working with multiple people. Perhaps you had to exercise conflict resolution. We're working in a fast-paced environment. Perhaps there is a time limit that you can shake those fries at a time because I don't know, maybe they might get too crispy and burn off. So I'm assuming there's some kind of a time management capability that's already implemented in there. So those are the kind of things that you need to look at in your background and how you can use that kind of background into your present status that can propel you into your future self. So analyze the job description, analyze it well, choose the words that are in the job description, and somehow connect them into your resume. And we're going to go ahead and give you more tips. But do you have anything to add to this, Masaroshi?
So, Master Sensei, I would just reinforce and reiterate how important the transferable skills are, because one of the problems that we have come across in the past, and I'm sure you probably still do, is that there's a lot of people out there that just don't see how their skill set before will be able to transfer over to a new job. They might be able to, have done something at McDonald's, like you mentioned before, like I did, but they don't know how to morph that and translate that into an office environment. And I think some of those examples that you gave in the beginning are really great. So we'll dive more into other sort of examples that you can use from different jobs. Because right now, you may have people that are doing so many different things just to get by. And when things start to pick up again in the economy and there's more jobs that are, available that will have more of a direct career path, how do you take some of the things that you're doing right now to help you again propel yourself forward, as you mentioned, Master Sensei, into something that's makes sense, into something that's going to be sort of a job that has more, I would say, a clear path, right? You get all this sort of varied experience, but how do you combine all that and take that into the job that you really want. So some of those are going to be the talking points that we'll be getting into today, as well as a number of other things that we find useful and helpful sort of along the way that we've been exposed to working with different populations. So I'll take it back to you, Master Sensei.
Okay, good. We were having a conversation in one of our because we're always conversing and we're always sharing and bouncing ideas. And one of the things that I remember you mentioned in one of our conversations is that the level of competition that is out there. Okay, and the competition is not just the person sitting next to you in your classroom. The competition is all those thousands of students that are graduating with degrees, who are bright eyed, who are eager and willing to do whatever is necessary to propel themselves forward. Those are the folks that you're competing. And in addition to competing against those folks, and by the way, they come in, they're coming. You cannot stop them. And they come every quarter, every half of year. They're just graduating more and more bright-eyed folks that are ready to take on the world. All right, and that is your competition. But in addition to having those folks as your competition is yourself. Your very self is the person you need to compete against every single day. Every single day, as I mentioned in our last podcast, I mentioned that I fight the good, the bad, and the ugly every single day. All right, and every single day, that's what I have to do, even when I'm looking for employment, because it is very easy for me to say, I'm too tired to do this today. I'm not doing it today. Why? Because you may not think that you're getting results, but you don't understand that you are getting results. They're just not visible to you yet, but the cosmos are working for you. You just need to continue to stay at the same formula and continue to do things over and over again. One of the things that I'm noticing right now, Master Roshi, is that no one likes to do reps. And at the end of the day, reps is what's going to get you there. What is reps? Repetition. Okay. The only way we get better is by repeating the task over and over again. Once where your subconscious takes over, it is no longer a conscious effort. That is when you start reaping the rewards. And that goes with the good, the bad, and the ugly, because even with bad habits that you've done over and over again, now that becomes second nature, is embedded into your subconscious mind, and that is who you have become. Okay, so now we need to perhaps let go of some of those bad habits. Maybe some of the bad habits was that you wanted to sleep a little bit later. And I'm sorry, I'm sorry, folks. There's no such thing as catching the early bird at the crack of dawn at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It just doesn't work. The only way it works is by catching the early bird at the crack of dawn, the early worm at the crack of dawn at 6 o'clock in the morning, at 5 o'clock in the morning. You know how awesome it would be to submit your resume before anybody else does, as opposed to being the last one you submit. As opposed to being the last one who you submit the resume to, and you're the last person on the inbox, as opposed to being the first person in the inbox. So those are kind of the tips that we're going to share. But right now, for example, what I want to do is I want to share. Um, I mentioned that you need to include language. Um, uh, I mentioned that we need to tweak the resume. I mentioned the fact that we need to uh, make a resume more impactful to an employer. And the way we do this is by making sure that we analyze the resume. And by analyzing our resume, we start including some of our expertise, some of our background, some of our work experience into it that validates those those values that they're looking for in the job description. So so let's just say that you're applying for a position at I don't know. Um, let's go with accountant. Okay, let's put this out there. Let's say you wanna you wanna submit a resume to an accounting firm, and the only thing that you have right now is McDonald's and your bachelor's degree in accounting, and that's all you have, a degree in accounting and your McDonald's experience. Analyze the job description, review it really well, okay? And yes, you cannot add hard skills to it because you haven't received it yet. You haven't experienced it yet. Although you can include some of those hard skills that you learned in school. So even though you may not have gotten paid for it, okay, you still use those skills in school in a particular project. So you can include that there. But in addition to that, you can include also your soft skills, ability to work well under pressure, able to meet multiple deadlines in a high paced environment. Those kind of values are in every single one of our jobs. If you worked at McDonald's, you had to keep time management. Okay, you had to work well with others. You had to have a conflict resolution personality. You had to make sure that the customer was always happy. And those are the kind of skills that you can go ahead and include that to propel you to any industry, whether it's the medical industry, you want to be a nurse, you want to be an accountant, you want to be an IT engineer, you want to be a human resource director. All those skills are necessary to do those tasks. So now, while you're looking at the job description and you're looking and you're analyzing it, some of you might think, especially those folks that have no experience, you might think that, man, how can I make myself fit to that resume? And I'm telling you this, ladies and gentlemen, if you have 50% of the job description, you qualify for the position. Listen to this again. And it doesn't have to be 50%. It can be as low as 30 and 40%. Okay. If you have 50% of the job description, you qualify to apply for the job. Many folks, they don't want to apply for the job unless they're 100% qualified. And what ends up happening is that when you're 100% qualified, you're overqualified. Why? Because you have no growth potential. There's no interest. You're going to be bored at that job. So by having 50% of the growth potential in your resume says that these are the 50% that I have, and this is the 50% that I will learn, and that's going to keep me engaged and interested in this job for at least another 2 to 3 years. So that is one of the things that we need to immediately remove from our heads, because when we look at a job description, uh, Master Roshi, we look for ways to disqualify ourselves. We may have 30 bullets in a job description, and we focus on the one bullet that we don't have. Oh, I don't qualify because I don't have this. No, rely. This is when your confidence comes in. You'll always hear these things, oh, just be confident in your during the interview. Being confident doesn't mean leaning back and being my best friend. Being confident is saying, I don't have those two bullets in the job description, but I'm confident in my wit, in my intelligence, and in my drive to achieve that skill set within the next month or two. And in the next month or two, I'm going to be so good at it that you don't have to teach me anymore. And I'm going to move on to my next skill set to learn. And that is what confidence means. It doesn't mean being arrogant. It means that you can rely on your strengths to make things happen, even though you may not have it at this very moment. Um, but let me throw it back at you. See if you have anything else before I continue with this topic, because I have right now. I just gave you I gave the audience a bit of a jewel by letting them know that if they have 50% of the job description, that they qualify. So let's see if if you have anything to add to this, Matsuroshi.
Yeah, I think I can drop some jewels here. And I like one of the things that I heard yesterday. I was doing some research and I was listening to this lady. She's like a college sort of counselor, right? So she helps students that are coming out of school with their resumes. And one of the words that she dropped really resonated with me, Master Sensei, and that was currency, right? So you should treat your resume as though it was currency, right? And I had to think about that. I was like, what does that exactly mean? Right? So I gave it some more thought and I was like, ah, I see what this means. So, in a way, the way we should treat our resumes is almost as an investment, right? So the more time you spend on it, whether it's doing spell check, making sure you're finding the key words, like you had said, Master Sensei, as we've spoken previously, finding those words in the job description that match up to a lot of the things that you've done, in your previous jobs, and including those, sprinkling those in, those verbs, those adjectives, those synonyms, inside your actual resume, and make it more in line to what the job is. The more time you spend working on your resume, not only just on the language, but also creativity, right? Being creative with your resume is so key because that's what's going to differentiate you from everybody else. And that's what's going to increase the currency of your resume from a $1 resume to $100 resume, right? And there was another thing that you had mentioned before, which was about the quality versus quantity aspect of the resume. And I think one of the things that gets lost, especially now because of technology, is that it's so easy to just hit one button and send your resume out to so many different companies. And, there's just no quality to that, right? When you do that, companies, there's hundreds and hundreds of companies out there, but you're not making it personable anymore. You're just saying, hey, whoever's out there that wants to look at my resume, great, go take a look. But there's no real effort in that. There's really no investment in that. So if you're able to take that amount, of effort that you're looking to do, and just kind of focus that onto just a couple of different companies that you really want to work with, right? And say, hey, like these are my top 10 companies that I want to work for. How do I make my resume targeted to those companies by looking at the jobs that they have, instead of just going on, Monster or LinkedIn and looking at a whole bunch of different jobs and say, oh, that one looks good. Let me send that out to, this company, that company, and you only spend like 5 seconds on that. When those companies get that resume, they're going to see whether it's through their ATS system, right? Their applicant tracking system, that there was really no, effort on your part to really match up your resume to what the job is. And when they see that on the receiving side, there's no value. There's no value added to what you're trying to do. So when they get that, goes right in the garbage, right? They're going to look for those people that really care about working for that company, finding out why it is that you want to work at that particular company. So I would take a step back, Master Sensei, because I think that's such a key ingredient to finding out how to actually make your resume shine, right? It's not just about sending it to everybody and hoping that It's like playing the lottery. You just hope that you hit the jackpot. It doesn't work that way. Most of the time that I've heard of people getting jobs is because it was very targeted. They wanted to work there. There was a certain job that they wanted to have there. And when you speak to that, it has a lot more value and resonates a lot more than just saying, well, you know, seemed like a good opportunity. It looked like something I might want to do, as opposed to, going down the list of, this job offers X, Y, and Z of things. And this is what I have to offer because this is the value that I've brought from my previous jobs, to that specific company. So I think when those things match up, right, Master Sensei, when point A matches up with point A, you just have a lot more to offer. And it's to me, it's just an easier conversation to have, with a company because when you send out this resume to so many different companies, you also forget who you send it out to, right? So when they call you on it, you might say, "Oh wow, like yeah, I don't remember you. I don't remember this company. I don't remember this position." But when you have a list, "Oh yes, yes, I do remember you, and this is why I remember you." And when people hear that, wow, they it shows that you care, that you are interested at the end of the day. And to me, that's what matters the most. So I take that back to you, Master Sensei, to unpack some of those things.
Yeah, I'm glad that you share that because it is absolutely true. One of the things that I like what you say is getting your $1 resume to be $100 resume, and that is true. Um, Perhaps being working in McDonald's and now going into your accounting job, it's a $20,000 resume going to be now a $60,000 resume, and the $20,000 effort no longer works at a $60,000 bracket. So everything changes at that moment. You decided to change by going to school, and that's fantastic. But in addition to giving yourself a wealth of skill sets, uh, it's a whole lot of other things that you need to do in order to make the complete package. You hear this all the time: the complete package, the complete package. That's the complete package: a well-crafted resume, a well-delivered interview, um, the way you dress, the way you speak, the way you groom yourself. These are all part of what makes a professional, and that's what you need to display. Like once you get lucky enough to convince somebody that you are the right person for that job, they're gonna ask you to go to an interview, and in that interview, you can't go into a $20,000 interview and expect $60,000 return. You need to go into a $60,000 interview to expect $60,000 in return. And I'm just throwing a number here, ladies and gentlemen. This can go on for 80,000, 100,000, or 200,000. You just need to know how to make the transition, not just in your skill sets. Yeah, and the complete package. Is not just having a nice resume. The complete package is having a well-crafted resume, a well-delivered interview, a the grooming the grooming that goes attached to it, the kind of clothes that you wear, the choice of words that you use to sell yourself. That's all part of the total package. Even as something as simple as Mr. Roshi, something as simple as picking up your phone. Okay, it's something as simple as that. We live right now in a society that no one likes to pick up the phone. I don't know why. uh, and I'm truthfully, I don't know why, because I myself don't like to pick up the phones at times, and I used to love being on the phone, and now it's like, hi, I don't want to talk to anybody, and I get it. We're overwhelmed with so many triggers out there between all these different social medias, all the different texting applications that we have out there, that the last thing we want to do is get into another medium, which is the phone. However, I have to tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, if you're in a job search mode, you have to pick up the phone. There's going to be people that don't have that are not in your contacts, that you're not going to recognize, and who you need to speak to. All right. So make sure that once you go into job search mode, yeah, you pick up every phone call that goes your way. Another great tip I think it can be helpful is to create a LinkedIn account. LinkedIn is your Facebook for professional reasons. It's how professionals connect with each other, and it's also a way for the employer to check out the goods before they meet you. Okay, you don't buy a $2,000 jacket because you hear the description. You want to see it. You want to take a look at it. All right, and I'm just saying, I'm just putting that's $2,000, but it could be $100. You don't want to buy $100 jacket without any kind of description on it. Okay, all you're gonna hear, oh, it's a good jacket. That's not enough. I need to see it. We're creatures that are visual. That's humanity for you. So you need to put a picture on LinkedIn. I think you and I we had a conversation on this a couple of days ago, Master Roshi, where we were mentioning we live in a selfie world. This is a selfie world where people are constantly taking pictures for no reasons. But yet, when it comes to the professional development, they're unwilling to put 3 minutes aside to put a well marketed picture to propel your future in the right direction. And yet, what we end up doing is we take pictures of ourselves making mistakes and posting it, and then wondering why our lives are not moving in the direction that we want them to move. All right. So keep that in mind as we continue with this resume session. So one of the things that right now are happening with resumes is that we had a session called the objective. Okay, and the objective is old news. Is played out. No one uses the objective because the objective is your objective, right? That you want to work for a company where you can utilize your hard skills and soft skills uh, with opportunities for growth. And that's when you really think about it, that's so generic. Okay, and it has been used truthfully throughout the decades. I remember the objectives when I was a young man, and decades later, people are just tired of hearing the objectives. So the objective has now been replaced uh, with the summary of qualifications. All right, and the summary of qualifications is it's a snapshot of your hard and your soft skills. Okay, recently graduate accounting professional with 3 years of customer service expertise working in a fast paced environment. That could be your one liner. And then and then your bullets of skill sets can perhaps be bachelor's of accounting, conflict resolution expert, if that is of course in the job description, uh, customer service focused. So now you have 3 bullets that are hopefully in the job description, all right, with a quick snapshot of who you are. Now, before I even continue reading the resume, I already have a quick overview of the person that you might be. So now I might be interested in reading the resume. But if you just send me a generic resume that you've been sending to everyone, where your objective is to work in a company where you want growth and 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 potential, uh, after reading, I'm sorry, but after reading 30, 40, or 100 of those resumes, I become really, really tired, and I don't want to. I don't even want to see it after a while. I'll just keep moving to the next one. All right. So that is number one thing. The objective. It needs to be replaced with a summary of qualifications. Another thing that is going on right now is not a lot of people are using the address anymore. Recruiters, unfortunately, creepy recruiters. Okay, creepy recruiters have been harassing many of the women applicants. So to make sure that our that the applicants are safe, we're no longer including the address on the resume. These resumes they end up in inboxes. Sometimes they get printed and they end up in the copier and or in the fax machine where everybody can just pass by and take a look at it, and they see a wealth of information that can be used against you. Another thing that I don't recommend is to use your birthday in your in your Gmails, in your email accounts. Some folks, you put so listen to this, right? So you in your resume, you give me your full name and address, your email, your LinkedIn, your phone number, all right? And in your email, you gave me your date of birth. So now I know your date of birth, your full name, and where you live. Who knows? If I have darkness in my heart, I may want to do something with that information. All right. So no need to put the address anymore. All right. You can just go ahead and just put down your city and state, city, state, and zip code, and that's it. Now, let me let me bring it back to you, Master Roshi. What do you think?
Some of those are um, things that I was aware of, like the objective going out of style. Was
Mhm.
definitely something I was aware of. But the address is something that I wasn't aware of. But it makes sense in terms of security. For people. We live in a world now where information is so prevalent, right? And it's become one of the most valuable things to have on someone. So yes, I think making some of that information a little bit more private, doesn't hurt in the world that we're living in right now. One of the things I didn't mention, but I wanted to kind of delve into is, I sort of talked about differentiating yourself. And one of the ways you can do that on your resume is getting creative. But creative how? Right? And one of the things I used to do, because I like just variety, is I would go and look at resumes of other people and what they were doing, especially like the ones that had a really good ability to add graphics or things to their resumes, colors, you know, um, style, fonts, and things like that. So, and you use that for inspiration. So if you catch yourself, in a rut where you're like, my resume is just not really popping out. What can I do to elevate this resume? You can go on Google and get inspiration from other people. You'll find that some people will want to charge you for getting a template, of one of their resumes. Unless you really want to or you have the funds to do it, you know, I don't think it's a problem. I like to just reference things and try to imitate some things that people have done with different layouts and different colors to really spruce up your resume so it looks different from the competition. Which is one of the key things that you had mentioned. You every year around this time, you have a batch of people that have graduated from school and they're coming out into the workforce, and you're competing with those folks. So being able to use those tools to your advantage is going to give you the edge that you need to be able to get that job that you want. So it requires you to use a different kind of thinking, a different kind of work mentality than you have been using. So one of the things to consider here is resources. So students that are in college have a wealth of free resources, not necessarily free because you're paying, most times to go to school. So you have counselors, you've got a work career development office that's willing to help you, with your resume. Now, once you've graduated, they do offer those services to you as an alumni, but usually for a fee, right? So while you're in school, take advantage of all those free opportunities that you're getting to be able to work on your resume and get that knowledge and those skills so that once you do graduate, it's a lifelong lesson, a lifelong skill set that you have for yourself. So you don't have to hire other people, to work on your resume. I've seen that there's tons of resources out there that do help people like that. And again, if you have the means and the funds, by all accounts, go out there and use it if it's going to help you. But I always feel that, the best person that can work on your resume is you. You know yourself better than anybody. And being able to extract a lot of that information that you need to put on your resume is always going to come from you, right? No one's going to know you better than you. And some people can translate that better on paper, but you know this is going to be a constant occurrence where you're going to be out in the workforce looking for different opportunities to elevate your career. So I always just think that it's just better if you can do it on your own, to do so if you can, you know but again, there's inspiration out there. There's Google, there's a bunch of different services that can offer help to you. So those are some of the takeaways that I would give to people, Master Sensei, that I think have benefited me in my career. I've had recruiters that I've worked with, but ultimately, I think most of them have been impressed with the resume that I've been able to provide, because it's just not something that most people spend enough time on. And it's a really sad thing because, on one hand, if you don't, you're giving the advantage to everybody else. And the people that do work on their resume versus the people that don't, you're just making it easier for them to get a job over you. So why make it easier for them? Don't do it. Make it harder, make it competitive. If you are not just with them but with yourself, which is one of the things you, Master Sensei, had said before, you're competing with yourself. It's a fun challenge. Make it the best resume you can do, right? And then just keep improving it over time. So don't let it get stagnant, is one of the key takeaways I would also mention to people. Keep updating it over time. It's a live document. It doesn't die, the last time you try to get a job and you just put it under a book or something and just let it collect dust. No, it lives. You just never know when an opportunity may come up, or you may lose an opportunity, lose a job, especially through the pandemic right now, where, that's happening to a lot of people. So keep that updated. It'll make it easier for everybody, including yourself, to look at that. And it's a self reflection of the work that you've done, uh, so that people can understand what you're doing, what you're able to deliver in a job. All the different successful things that you've done is going to be important as a reflection of that to everyone else. So just keep working on it. I turn it over back to you, Master Sensei.
No, yes, absolutely. Continue working on it. You mentioned about getting inspiration from other people, and I agree. Look at um, go on LinkedIn and see how people in your industry are marketing themselves. Uh, People that have better positions than you. Okay, don't look at the people that are in your level. Look at people that are in a higher position than you, and imitate that, and that way you can be recognized, and that way you can stand out. You always hear about, hey, ways to stand out. That's how you stand out. You stand out by being by not looking the same way like all the other people. That's how you stand out in the interviews when everybody's nervous and uh, uh, um, looking less than comfortable during the interview. The way you stand out is by being calm and poised. So definitely review resumes within the industry that are in better positions than you, and then try to imitate that. And you know, you're right. Your resume, you should be the one creating your resume. Many years ago, when I was married, my ex-wife used to do my resumes for me. And guess what happens when we got divorced? Okay, she wasn't using my resumes no more, and it was a hard transition to make. And of course, I didn't want to ask her to make it for me because, my ego and my pride. So what did I do? I had to learn it on my own, and now years later, I think I'm pretty good at it. So absolutely, I think it's best that this is a skill set that you need to know on your own, because you don't know the loved ones that you may have around with today may not be your loved ones tomorrow, and the resources that you have available today may not be available tomorrow. So the most resourceful creature that you can have by your side is you. And don't, like what you say, Master Roshi, let's look at this resume over and over and over again. All right, make sure, become obsessed with quality. Don't look at your resume as your resume. Look at your resume as your business proposal, where you're documenting the things that you've done with the potential of doing greater things. That is the value of your resume. Is your business proposal, and don't look at the interview as you go into an interview. You go into a business meeting to close a deal. And that deal is 40, 50, 60, or $100,000 or more. That is the deal that you're closing. All right. So you're going in there, all right. You're going into an interview, you're going in there with a business proposal, all right, looking to close a deal into your business meeting. All right. So now, with the objective in mind, and now realizing the heading of keeping some things away to make sure that creepy recruiters don't harass applicants, that comes the education and the experience. And there has been a battle, a never-ending battle. What goes first? Education. What goes first? Experience. And um, and some people say education, and some people say experience. And I'm here to tell you that you're both right and you're both wrong. So if the education is related to the job that you're applying to, then education comes first. All right, because now I see your heading, I see your objective, your no, no, sorry, not your objective, your summary of qualifications, and your summary of qualifications are aligned with our business model. And now you have your education that is also aligned with your business model. First half of your resume, it's already looking pretty interesting. All right. So if you just went to school for the industry that that you're trying to get into, industry goes first. Experience goes first. However, if you have experience in that industry, then experience goes first. So if you've been an accountant, and you've been a junior accountant, you had an associate's degree in accounting, and you were working as accounts payable, and now you're getting your master's degree in accounting. Um, and although a master's degree has a high value, uh, the fact that you worked in accounting in an accounting department for 2 years has even greater value. So what you do at that moment, you give me the summary of qualifications and your experience as an accountant, uh, and then after that comes where in addition to those 2 years accounting experience, you're validating that experience with a 4 year degree as a bachelor's degree in accounting. All right, so that is how you're able to, I guess, to select which one might be better, the education or or the experience. All right, and then after that, you can have internships opportunities that you may have attended if you didn't have the expertise to give you some insight on how those things work or how that industry works. Um, you always hear things. You always hear things about uh, doing doing a little bit extra than the other person, um, and uh, and and an account and then an internship opportunity is doing a little bit extra than others. Other people don't like to do internship because they don't pay. A lot of people are looking into pay in terms to monetary, and which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But there are times when our currency is knowledge. And by having a currency of knowledge can turn into a currency of actual physical wealth. So it starts off with knowledge. Remember, everything that we have that we see right now in this industrial world has been given birth by a thought. It was somebody's thought that put it into practice. So knowledge is the highest currency uh, that we can have. All right. So remember your heading. Remember your summary of qualifications. Remember what goes first, education or experience. Remember to have a LinkedIn account, make it robust. Research the companies that you want to work for. Stay highly organized so when those employers start calling you, you know exactly what to say or what not to say. Stop sending one resume to everybody. Make sure that they get tweaked for every single job. All right. Uh, learn to create your own resume. Don't rely on others. All right. Look at your resume as your business proposal, not just a piece of paper with a list of chores. And make sure that if you're transitioning from one industry to another, that you're transitioning in well, that if you're transitioning from a $20,000 job to a $60,000 job, it needs to reflect that on your resume. And when you go into an interview, it needs to reflect on that interview as well. Anything else that I might have missed, Master Roshi, before we close for the day?
No, I think that was good. That was a great summary to capture all of the items that we talked about today. So I would just stress, that knowledge that you said, put it, make it your currency, right? That's the highest form of payment nowadays. It's what and there's almost no way to get around that anymore. So definitely, I think we can come to a close on today's podcast. So I'll let you wrap it up, Master Sensei.
All right. So thank you, Master Roshi. So, audience, folks, friends, um, if there is anything else that you'd like me to go over in terms to resume, please let us know, and I'll go into a little bit more detail. Next week, we're going to go over interview techniques on how to prepare for an interview and how to deliver a well crafted interview. But let me ask you this: um, what are you doing at this moment to make yourself better during this pandemic, so that you can add more value to your already existing skills and add more value to your to the loving family that are depending on you? Please share with us. I would love to hear, and maybe we can have another session in the Milligenics talk show. Thank you.